These are scenes from Russia's second city, St. Petersburg, and in Kazan, protesters commemorated Mr. Navalny by writing his name in the snow. There have also been protests around the world, including here in Washington, where hundreds of people gathered outside the Russian embassy to pay their respects to Alexei Navalny and to speak out against President Putin. Among those in the crowd was Grigory Vaypan, a Russian human rights lawyer and democracy fellow with the Centre for European Policy Analysis, and he joins me here in studio. Grigory, thanks indeed for joining us. You're at that protest, as I mentioned. What do you expect we'll see in Russia over the next few days? We've seen that laying of flowers and so on today.
Well, obviously it's a tragic moment for Russia and the Russian people, and we've seen that all across the country. People were coming out to pay tribute to Alexei Navalny and to lay flowers. Protest today in wartime Russia is incredibly difficult and dangerous and carries enormous personal risks. Rallies, public rallies are mostly banned, and any criticism of the president and the war expose people to severe punishment. In addition to that, many people who oppose President Putin and who oppose the war left the country, including myself, at some point after Russia's full-scale invasion. And so what we're seeing now is actually protest at Navalny's death, protests directed at the Russian government, is being scattered all across the world. But actually fewer people have stayed inside of Russia, and that complicates any strong voice of condemnation.
We heard Kurt Volker say a little earlier that whenever Alexei Navalny's body is returned to his parents, that is something that the Kremlin will try to handle or to manage to avoid demonstrations. How do you think they might approach that?
Well, obviously they will try to organize the funeral in a way that it happens as discreetly as possible. They would try to disperse any crowds if those take place. We've seen when famous Russian mutineer, head of the Wagner group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, died. Russian authorities, in fact, orchestrated a whole cover-up of his funeral in St. Petersburg. So the journalists and the public didn't know where and when it's going to take place until it was over. We should expect something similar here, I believe.
Now, Alexei Navalny was aware, obviously, that his life was in danger. He had spoken about that. Do you think will his family ever know just exactly what happened to him?
I hope so, and I think it's crucial at this moment for the international community to demand a full and impartial investigation into his death. We've seen that the Russian government is clearly incapable and unwilling of doing such an investigation. We saw that several years ago in 2020 when Alexei Navalny was poisoned by a nerve agent. So I think it's essential for the civilized world, for the free world, to not limit itself to statements of condemnation, but to demand a full investigation. And it is the international organizations such as the United Nations that should take the lead and insist that their experts have access to Russia to visit the colony where Navalny died, to get access to the files, to get access to his body. We have international bodies like, for example, the United Nations Committee Against Torture or the United Nations Human Rights Council. They do have the mandate to investigate such incidents, and Russia is a party to the United Nations Charter, Russia is a party to the Convention Against Torture, must cooperate.
It still is a sovereign state, though, and from what we've seen, past behavior, President Putin could refuse that.
Yes, but it's a moment for the international community to really step up its response, because Alexei Navalny has sacrificed everything that he had. He sacrificed everything for his country, for his people, and now is the time for us, for all of us, and for the entire world to step up and not just express condemnation, but do something more.
What about other individuals who are currently detained in Russia? I mean, there are the US citizens, Evan Gershkovich and Paul Phelan. There are plenty of others as well. What's their fate like today?
Their lives are obviously at risk. And I think that the Russian government and Vladimir Putin specifically sends out a clear message that no one is safe in his prisons. Because it's what we're seeing now, what we're witnessing today is actually the first time that a prisoner, first time I think in post-Soviet Russia, that a prisoner was intentionally murdered or intentionally tortured to death. This is a very chilling moment to realize. We should bear that in mind.
How do you think what has happened today feeds into, as we were discussing there with Angela Stent a moment ago, the war in Ukraine, the offensive there?
Navalny's death comes at a pivotal moment for Putin. It's a moment where Western support to Ukraine is a bit shaky. And what Putin wants us, I think, is to lose hope. He wants the Russian people to lose hope, and Navalny was a symbol of hope. He was a symbol of resistance for Russia and the Russian people. And he also wants the world to lose hope, that, send a message that he's gonna stay forever. Okay. And I think the best the world can do is support Ukraine at this moment.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there for the moment. Grigory Vaypan from SIPA, thank you very much for joining us.